Do you think your machine, if it can be commercially made available, can, for example, a person would buy a 300 or 400 pound unit and all of a sudden would be able to produce all of the energy they need for their home? Is that certainly within the realm of possibility?
Exactly. I have absolutely no doubt about it. That such a device hooked to a home, a person will never have to pay for energy again. The device will be made smaller as put in an automobile, plane, spacecraft, you name it. And what you're doing is that you're converting mass into energy on a 100% conversion process. That's one of the first prototypes, and that's a 700-pound magnetic rotor. Demonstrate something like 25 times more out than externally and put it into the system.
You get more?
I think it's probably the most significant discovery in the history of man.
Still, the U.S. Patent Office calls Newman's invention an impossible perpetual motion machine, and for 8 years now has refused to grant him a patent.
Seldom has any story we've covered sparked more reaction than the strange saga of Joseph Newman. Mr. Newman is a Mississippi inventor who makes some strange claims concerning an energy machine he invented.
The controversy began as soon as Joseph Newman introduced this strange-looking device to an energy-hungry public. He claimed that this electromagnetic machine operates without the use of any conventional fuels. He claimed the machine produces more energy out than is externally put in. Now, pick an expert in the field and they'll tell you that's impossible. But Mr. Newman claims he is achieving this by an internal conversion of matter into energy. And now 31 people with scientific backgrounds have signed legal documents swearing to the machine's validity. But the most important endorsement came this week from a most unlikely source. Mr. Newman has been fighting for a patent for years. Many, therefore, considered it ironic when a federal judge appointed the former head of the Patent Office, William Schuyler, to decide if Newman's device did or did not work. Mr. Schuyler, who is also considered to be an expert on electrical engineering, didn't take long to make his decision. In a report of the special master, Mr. Schuyler states, "Evidence before the court is overwhelming that Newman has built and tested a prototype of his invention in which the output energy exceeds the external input energy." The expert then goes on to say, the Patent Office finding that such a machine is impossible is clearly erroneous. Mr. Schuyler also found that the Patent Office intentionally did not consider the formalities of Mr. Newman's application for a patent. Why wouldn't you go along with the man that you recommended in granting a patent?
You ask mean questions, don't you? I think you'd have to address that question to our present commissioner.
Are you acting on his orders?
You might say that, yes.
In this case, there's only one word for it so far, and that's outrageous. Long ago, the Patent Office should have issued a patent.
Representatives of the State Department of Energy were also on hand to observe the testing. For 6 days, tests were run. Some of the tests were simple, some of the results perplexing. WWL engineers conducted one of the tests done by Mississippi State. Almost any engineer or physicist will tell you that those test results should be impossible. But after 6 days of test, the senior engineer doing the testing for Mississippi State said Mr. Newman's machine did produce more energy out than in. That, too, is supposed to be impossible. On August 18th of this year, Joseph Newman was invited to the NASA facility near Picayune, Mississippi. Over 70 scientists and engineers wanted to hear Mr. Newman's theory. We were called and asked not to come. It seems the scientists and engineers felt they would be restricted in their questioning of Mr. Newman if television cameras were present. So we agreed to stay away. For Joseph Newman, the meeting was very important. It was the first time that he had stood before so many experts in the fields of physics and engineering. Experts who had the capability of disproving his strange theory. But at the end of the 2-hour meeting, just the opposite occurred.
I asked him two very distinct questions toward the conclusion. I said, does anyone here disagree with what I'm saying? No one spoke up. No one disagreed. Complete and total silence. I said, well, let me ask it another way. Is there anyone here who agrees with what I'm saying? And surprising to me, vigorously, quite a few people spoke up and said, yeah.
So once again, Joseph Newman and his theory have been put to the test. And once again, no one disproves it. Many agree with it. But no attempt is made to conduct definitive tests.
That's not negative at all.
In August of this year, Joseph Newman called one of the premier instrumentation firms in the world. He requested that engineers be sent to his home to make sure the testing equipment he had purchased from that company was working properly. On August 24th, 2 engineers tested the equipment and Mr. Newman's machine. Both were electrical engineers with 50 years experience between them. One had a master's degree from MIT. After testing the Newman device for 5 hours, one of the engineers called me. He said the machine is simply incredible. It does exactly as the inventor claims. He then offered a letter and the test results. Plus, he and his partner agreed to an interview. But the next day, company representatives called WWL to say there would be no letter, no interviews, and the company's name should not be used.
According to conventional theory, it can't do what it's doing. Just sitting there continuously rotating the rotor requires more power than is going into the device.
There's three forms of power that can come out of this device. Mechanical power, electrical power, and then the power that's fed back into the batteries. So there's 3 separate outputs of power. And actually, we're only measuring one of these. So the actual power output of it is greater than what we've measured.
If you doubt this strange story, you are not alone. One of the first to doubt was Dr. Roger Hastings, a PhD in physics from Minnesota. After conducting innumerable tests, Dr. Hastings no longer doubts. Are you not talking about a machine that would change the world?
It certainly would.
Do you know how crazy that's going to sound to the people watching?
Well, just about as crazy as it sounded to me the first time I heard it. But my point of view is just that I have made measurements, I have seen enough experiments that are just not explainable on the basis of our present understanding of, my present understanding of physics. It's something that would really change the world.
When Joseph Newman stepped before a news conference today to make his astonishing claims, sitting beside him was Dr. Hastings and representatives of the State Department of Energy, longtime skeptics, now convinced.
I am convinced now. I was a little bit prejudiced, and like all people that come up with devices like this, you think they're wrong, and so you go down to prove them wrong if you're that interested, and I was not able to prove him wrong. No, I think Einstein's going to have to take a second seat to Joe Newman.
Dr. E.L. Moraine, one of the men involved in the making of the atomic bomb, wrote, "Your project will lead to developments that would be beneficial to all mankind."